Are you looking for an experience that will grow your teenagers' faith, increase their leadership skills, and teach them the discernment to engage with the world all around them, all while taking them on the adventure of a lifetime? I mean, who isn't looking for that? If your teenager loves fun, adventure, and wants to grow in their faith and leadership this summer, then send them to Excel's Summer Leadership Camp. Excel's Summer Leadership Camp is a 12-day experience for passionate young leaders looking to discover God's truth, to discern wisely, and live wholeheartedly. Your teenager will embark on a transformative journey in the Blue Ridge Mountains, where they'll build lasting friendships in the context of community, embark on thrilling adventures like camping, rock climbing, whitewater rafting, and they will receive expert training and certifications in categories like CPR and wilderness first aid. Each aspect of the camp is woven together to help them learn to discover truth, to discern wisely, and take godly action in the context of real-life situations. To learn more or begin an application, go to theexcelcamp.org. That's theexcelcamp.org. Hurry, because summer is just around the corner.
What's your priority in life? You make your spiritual life priority, you make your family priority, but you still haven't made your health a priority.
Welcome to the Reclamation Podcast, where our goal is to help busy people reclaim good practices for faith and life. Here's your host, Tony Meltenberger.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Reclamation Podcast. I'm Tony, and I'm excited to bring you this conversation with my dear friend, Milton Herring. Milton is traveling around the world doing motivational stuff. He's got all sorts of different projects and side hustles and different things that he's putting out into the world, and he's putting out some great stuff. I think you're going to find this conversation with Milton to be life-giving and full of inspirational material and practical too, as we talk about what it means to balance faith and life. As always, I'm excited to share this episode with you, and it wouldn't be possible without some of our sponsors. Specifically, want to give a huge shout out to the Matthew Tamrisk collection. His line of custom desks is incredible, and this afternoon, actually, as I record this, he is putting his custom desk that I picked out and he helped me do into my office. So I'm excited to share that with you. Check it out on Instagram at TWMilt, TWMILT, or you can go straight to the source at Matt Spitz or at MatthewTamriskCollection.com. There'll be a link in the show notes. And without any further ado, here's my conversation with Milton Herring. And my special guest, Milton Herring II. Milton is a blogger, podcaster, motivational speaker extraordinaire, and not only that, he has been a dear friend to me over the last year or so. Milton, how the heck are you, sir?
I'm doing wonderful, Tony. So grateful. I'm going to tell you, I'm grateful today. Number one, I am forgiven. Number two, I have been accepted. And number three, God has enhanced me with his spirit. So I'm doing great today.
Amen. That's awesome. That's awesome. So let me jump right in, man. How would you describe your relationship with God here on just kind of a random Sunday afternoon? How would you describe it?
That's a great question, Tony. And I think the funniest thing is that every season kind of points you in a different response, right? So if you would have asked me this question maybe a year ago, I might have had a different answer. But I think today's my relationship with God today is more like the dad. And I'll use an example. My father worked when I was younger, worked a couple jobs, and he'd work during the day, then he'd work overnights, and I saw him, sometimes in the morning, but a lot of times my mom would kind of drag me and my brother out of bed to go pick him up from the UPS station where he was, unpacking trucks or loading or driving, and I remember I remember Dad not being there during the day, but then he'd come home late at night, and then I went and see him early in the morning because I'm off to school or he's gone. And that happened for a few years. And I think right now, honestly, to be transparent with you, Tony, I think that's where I feel like my relationship with God is I know that he's there. I do. I know that he's taking care of the house, my spiritual home and my family, and he's there supporting us. But at times I wish that he was a little bit closer, and that could be more of what I am experiencing in this season of my life. And so I think that's really, if I were to really be transparent, honestly, what my relationship with God, as much as I know that he's there, know he loves me, but do I want to see him more? Yeah, I do. Do I want to throw catch in the backyard on a sunny afternoon? When, yes, I'd love to do that. And I think honestly that's where I'm at right now.
So do you feel like you guys are like ships passing in the night, or like you're like calling out like, hey, God, I need you to show up, and he's
he's like, please hold for the next available operator.
I think it depends on the day right now. It's like I feel like, hey, I think I heard him. I heard him go this way, and then I keep going the opposite way. Or, yeah, I think I'm reaching out, or I feel like I want to call him, but and want him there. Then he's like, oh, hold on 1 second, and I'm like, all right, I just trust that you're gonna come back on. You're not gonna hang up on me.
Well, I listen. I really appreciate the transparency. As kind of we just jump into the beginning of the conversation. You wear a lot of hats, and one of the hats that you wear is hat of pastor. Mm-hmm. And so, how do you live in the tension of feeling distant from God, which we all do? Every pastor I've ever talked to does, and yet still trying to help do your part in the local church. And maybe you can kind of share with what your role in the local church is for a lot of people.
Yes. So my role in local church is that I'm one of the teaching pastors locally here in Utah, and I do help out with the young adults. I do help out with weekday Bible studies and do some teachings there. Also, I'm one of the team pastors. We're also tied to a Christian Academy, and when it comes to sports, I get called on to come in and I can do chapel services, or I can come and do some motivational talks, including, tying in scripture with the athletes. And so that's kind of my role. Also, I'll sit on the board of the church there too, as one of the members. But as far as how I am right now when it comes to my role, how does that play into it? That I am always thinking that I have been on the peaks before, I've been in the valleys before, and this is no different. It's just another phase of life that even if I feel like I'm in the valley walking by myself, I know that there's a time where this valley does end, and then there's a climb to the peak. And in that climb to the peak, I know that I do have a support, I have a guide that's with me, and that will celebrate with me when I get back to the top. So I feel like like I said, every season does have its challenges, it has its opportunities, and this season, I reflect on when I felt the closest to God, and I reflect on that, and I believe that's my fuel to keep me going. And during this time, that this journey is not over. Every day that He's given me to live, every morning that I rise, that it's an opportunity for me to experience God in a different and unique way, and also be able to articulate that to those that I help lead and teach and guide. And so I accept the journey, and I accept the responsibility of being a pastor that way.
No, I love that, and I think that your transparency is a real gift to a lot of people. As a matter of fact, I bet there's tons of people listening right now who feel like they're in a valley. One of the questions I would ask you is, how do you know when the season changes? Because I don't know about you, but like it's like all of a sudden I'm like, man, things were going well, and now I feel like I'm in quicksand. How did that happen?
I'll say this. It's like I'm looking at, we just coming through winter, right? And the snow is kind of packed on the ground, and everybody's
you're in Utah. There's a lot of snow there.
There is a lot of snow, and sometimes the snow can linger a little bit longer in the winter time, but then all of a sudden, I never know, it creeps up on you. I've lived here long enough now. Sometimes I'll miss it, but it's like there's snow, it's frozen, it's super cold, and all of a sudden a week comes where the snow starts to thaw, the weather temperature warms up, and then all of a sudden these weeds and stuff start popping. I was like, wait a minute, it was just cold. Like, okay, I didn't see this stuff, and now I'm like, I got to get out there and take care of this lawn. I got to get out there and take care of these trees. And so, and I think it's, sometimes I feel like there's no hard line to when seasons change. It's more of a realization that something has changed and something's about to change. And I think that's where our indicators can be spiritually, is that when we start feeling that there's a shift happening, maybe you feel like the struggle times you're going through, the cold, the hard times you're going through are starting to thaw. Like it's not as intense. The frequency kind of lengthens, meaning that it's not everyday intensity, but it may be every other day to once a week to once every other week to once. You know what I mean? So I think those are my indications that the season is beginning to change. But at the same time, I also know that even in the intensity of what's going on in the season, or even the beauty of the season, that this is not going to last forever. So it could be, I know this happened to me, 6 months ago. I was like, man, this is great. Life is great. look, everything is going great. But then I also, in the back of my mind, knew that I need to prepare and get myself ready for a season that's coming, that I'm not truly understanding and may know where it's going to come from. But opportunities come, and things come, and they will challenge us. But then also we'll have those victories on the back end. So I think really the best wisdom I can give in that situation, understanding seasons, is to know that when the frequency does shift, that you'll know that a time is coming to an end or something is new about to begin. So that's where I'm at right now.
No, I love that. I love the idea of looking for the frequency, because I think that life probably gives us more cues if we're paying attention to them.
They do.
Do you I know you to be a pretty disciplined guy in terms of your gym time and your time in the Word, and your protein pancakes on Saturday, which if you follow
pancakes.
Milton's pancakes on Saturday, they're legendary. And because you're a couple hours behind me, I always think I should have pancakes for lunch with Milton.
You should. That's what you should do. Pancakes for lunch. I'm like, where am I going to take this? But yeah, discipline. Yeah.
Well, so what are your disciplines, and do they change in seasons? Like, what do you do to stay salty, to use that biblical term?
That is great, and I think one of the things that really got me into the discipline of the fitness piece of it was I was just tired. I was just so tired. I was just tired, not only physically, but I was tired of beating myself up emotionally, mentally, and it was affecting my spiritual life. And I came to that season where, everything, it was so easy at one point in my 20s and even maybe early, mid to late 20s, early 30s, where, hey, I can get away with a lot of things as far as my eating habits, but I still went to the gym. I could easily lose the weight. You could drop 15, 20 pounds like that. And then things started to change.
So much.
Right? I miss those days. You see, my body's in seasons, right? So it was like, that was one season. So now I'm in this new season. I'm like, oh gosh, this is not coming off easy, and it keeps coming and packing on. So to be honest, I was close to 400 pounds, Tony,
Wow.
at one point. And I was really thinking about, and this will lead into the other stuff about discipline, but really thinking about, hey, do I get this surgery, the stomach surgery? Do I go down that road? And I was like, I don't, my whole mind was like, I'm defeated. I can't do this. I can't make it happen. There's no way for me. I'm not a part of a football team anymore, or a team of guys that'll keep me accountable, which was a lot of my fault. But thinking about how can I change the way I am living, and my wife, I love her to the moon and back, because we've been together for 21 years. But she spoke truth. She's like, this could be the easy way out for you. And when she said that, it was like, I don't know, it challenged my manhood, Tony. I don't know.
Well, it's like a backhanded compliment. It would be the easy way out.
Yeah, it is. So, and not to discredit those that need to do that type of surgery, but they sit you, they make you sit down on those in those therapy classes where you have other people, and they do a group sessions with you. You have to sit in group sessions where you have these surgeries, and I looked around, I'm like, I am not as bad as I thought I was, and so it made me realize that I'm overweight, so in that journey and going and creating that discipline, and then having a good friend, Jeffrey Zaccone out of Austin, Texas, who's challenged me I called out to him. I said, hey, I know what you do. You're a pastor. You've done this before. You train other people. I need your help. And from long distance, he kind of challenged me from day one, said, Milton, what's your priority in life? You make your spiritual life priority, you make your family priority, but you still haven't made your health a priority. And so, because that's one, if your health is gone, then how can you take care of everything else? And I was like, God, so right. So that flipped the switch for me to become more disciplined. And then, and also doing that, working on my fitness, it translates into my spiritual and the family, and making sure that I'm lining everything up as much as I record my food. So I'm down to 315 now. So that's
congratulations, man.
Even though I'm a big guy, so it's
that's a small human though. You lost a small human.
It is, and I try to remind myself that is a small human that I just let go. I let go of.
That's my 8-year-old. You lost Caleb.
Get in my belly, Caleb.
No, get off my belly, Caleb.
That's that's what I felt like when I was about 400 pounds. Yeah, like what do I want to eat today? So that has translated into my other areas of my life and keeping me on point. It's amazing how it's amazing how much you can shift in your life if you can discipline one area. A mentor told this to me. He was like, you can have, if you have a string and you have 5 rings heavy on them and one is way heavier than the other ones, and you put it in the middle, it's going to pull all the other ones down to it, no matter how structured, disciplined those other rings are. And he says if you handle that one heavy one, all the other ones will balance out as well. And so I was lacking in discipline in that one area, which was dragging a lot of my other areas down in my life. And once I started to work on that, it started to raise everything up to the same level. And so, so I appreciated that and remember that. And so I was like, gosh, it's the truth behind life and discipline. And started to be long-winded, but I think discipline, it's a choice, but it's a tough choice, and it's a choice of a direction. It's a choice of sticking with the decision you made and the promises you make to yourself, and also I think discipline is a direct reflection of our spiritual life and our honesty and truth in who God and His Word is. So that's where I believe.
Come on, Pastor, that'll preach. That ring thing, man, that's a sermon illustration if I ever heard one. That's incredible. I love that one heavy ring will weigh down everything else. So get tactile with it. What are your disciplines? You wake up every morning around what time, and then what do you do? What do you do to keep those promises to yourself? And if you feel comfortable, what are the promises that you have?
So that's a great question. So I mean the boundaries, right? I create boundaries in my life. 5 o'clock, 5:15ish. I'm up. I try to get to the office about 6:45. So I live about
the work office.
So
at 6:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going. I'm with you.
So I'm about 45 minutes away from my office. So obviously I gotta get out of the house by 6, a little bit after 6. I try to. So in the morning, first thing in the morning, my prayer, it's dropping my feet on the ground. I go do my thing, not to be so, R-rated, but, I go handle my business in the bathroom. And right. Then, that's where a lot of my prayer and meditation, and I do my
sacred space.
It's sacred. Yes, it's my 3x3 time. 3 minutes of my gratitude, 3 minutes of my prayer time, and 3 minutes of envisioning what I want for the day and continue to think about my life. So my 3x3, and then I jump in the shower, get ready, get dressed, and head out the door. The cool thing about where I work, though, we do have a gym, so I usually will. I intermittent fast throughout the day, so I don't eat until about 12, 1 o'clock, sometimes 2, depending on the day. And so I spend my lunchtime at the gym there at work after I have my morning meetings, emails. We'll jump in the gym from about 10 o'clock, 9:30 to 10:30 around there. And then come back and finish up my meetings, go through my work, have my other meetings, have lunch. At the end of the day, that I head home. Right now, I'm in baseball season, so I got to get to the baseball field at about 4:30ish. So I try to get there a little bit late to help out with practice. And then after practice, if I don't have a board meeting or commission meeting or something in the evening or a podcast interview or working on my blogs or something like that, I spend a few hours after practice doing that. After dinner, of course, and then spend some time with my wife. Make sure my son's got his homework done, spend some time with my wife, make sure she's taken care of because her love languages are quality time and service. So if I come home and if I got to do the yard or if I got to help out cleaning up the house, make sure that's taken care of. I journal every day, and then I call it a night, get ready for the next day. So that's my discipline. And so my goals, and to say all that, is that my goals, number one, is to be as healthy, fit as possible, breaking some barriers with my health. Number 2 is also taking care of my family, my son, and I have 5 children. My youngest is 14. The rest are out the house. So I make sure that I'm giving him the best love and attention possible as a father. Thank goodness for technology. I can text and FaceTime with him, so we stay connected. And then when I come out to the field, it's another opportunity for me to be a dad and a coach. And so the best of both worlds, I think. And then Also financially, just making sure that we're sound all the way around, being the best stewards possible, and leaving a legacy behind, and also giving to the community, being more tied in the community, more so than just being a resident. And so I spend a lot of time there with the city and doing those things as well. But that's a lot of my goals, and I feel like, Tony, when I say all this stuff, I'm like, gosh, I'm here, but I'm everywhere at the same time, which is, I don't know if that's the healthiest thing, but
well, let me ask you this: does it feel like that to you most days?
that
That you're everywhere at the same time?
it does, and I'm working on compartmentalizing my thoughts in life. So, if I'm with you or talking with you, we're colleagues in different levels, and so I think about those. I pull that box out. So if I'm if I'm in sports, I got my sports box out, and you've heard the guy talk. If I'm doing things with the city, I've got my city box out. At work, got my work, my fitness box out, and so I try to compartmentalize everything so I can make sure I'm on top of everything at the same time. But I guarantee you. But I tell you that this little device here has been my go-to as far as I can't remember a thing. So
yeah, the cell phone, yeah.
I have to tell that to remind me, right? Like,
no
hey,
doubt. So let me ask you this, because I love productivity tips.
Yeah.
And you're super productive guy. You get a lot of stuff done.
That's right.
What are your go-to tips for calendaring? What are your go-to tips for how do you protect time in order to make sure that your wife and your kids have that time? How you managing all that?
Yeah, definitely. Let me see if I have my. I don't have my. I carry it Sunday, so it's out of my bag in the living room. But so I do a lot of paper, right? And so even though I have my technology, I have.
Yeah, you held up a cell phone and then you looked for paper.
I did, because this will talk back to me. My cell phone will talk back to me, but my paper lets me articulate my thoughts throughout the day. It helps me structure and do my checklist. So my wife, we invested in a really nice binder that's like it's got your to-dos, your calendars, my daily stuff. And so
it's a 1990s Trapper Keeper, isn't it? You can tell me.
You got it. It is. So I went back to paper. Oh my gosh, it's been about a year and a half ago. I went back to utilizing paper as my daily checkpoint, and then using my phone to talk to me, so I can, things throughout the day that I don't have time to go back to look, it buzzes me on my watch or my phone, right? And so productivity tips. So that's one thing that I do, and throughout the day, I'll just write down the first thing in the morning when I get to the office, 6:45. I jot down the probably the 10 most things that are important for me to do that day and get done. And it's from personal to professional to sports or to whatever I'm doing for the day and whatever my goals are for this season. And I write those down, and then the satisfaction for me is to a completed to-do list. I guarantee you, when I'm crossing things off, it's the greatest feeling for me. So that's what keeps me alert, really helps me be disciplined. And if I haven't gotten to something that day, it's hard for me to go to sleep and really rest, lay my head down if I haven't gotten it done. So those days that are longer, it's just what it is. It's just a longer day, but I got that done what I wanted to get done. I accomplished that day. So, and I focus on it one day at a time. And I think a lot of people might look at a week, which is good, I guess. But for me, that's been really helpful for me to stay productive and get things done, is to look at one day. And inside my calendar, I can look at the whole month and say, okay, what's the goal this month? Even what are my topics? Even when I look at my topics for my podcast or different things that I'm involved in, those are all in my calendar, and like, okay, this is what I'm working on this month, and I prioritize that. So if you guys listen, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, do you jot down your creative, brainstorming ideas in your calendar then?
Yeah, I do. So I know there's a side tab on my calendar. It lets me know what I'm going to be working on. What's my focus for the month for my Maximizing Moment audience, or what's my focus for the month if I'm doing something for the nonprofit at ATK that I'm working on. What's my focus? And so that keeps me, every time I look at my calendar, I see that, and I jot down ideas for this week or for next week. Okay, I can break that down into more bite size, instead of trying to be creative every day, which is, creativity is a wonderful gift, but it's very limited. And all the things that I do every day, it kind of sucks in my creativity. So it's like all the different things that I'm involved in, I need creative energy for that.
Based off of what I'm hearing your schedule, it sounds like you've got 5 minutes to be creative at like 3:55.
You got it right.
I'm like, geez Louise, Eleanor, come on, man. Like, it's like, so do you, when you sit down, like you're pumping out, you pump out more content than almost anybody I know. So how many blogs do you write in a week?
I think you're on mute.
Workday's starting to sound the same.
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
You know, I actually will blog. I'll batch blog. So I will actually batch blog. So I will do.
That's another productivity hack right there. Explain what batch blogging is. I know, but I think there's a lot of people out there that may not.
So I mean, batching you can use batching for a lot of different scenarios and areas, but batching is doing more than one at a time. So if I give myself 1 hour, so if I clock myself for an hour, my goal is to get one at least 3, right? And so I'll jump in there and I'll put down, I'll have 3 different titles for that one. So if I'm focusing in 1 month, my focus for this month, especially for Maximizing Moments, is mindset, envisioning, and looking at how the mind reacts to success. How do you there's about 5 or 7 different topics I can go off of that. So I'll just basically jot those topics down for the month, and then I'll just jump in and write some blogs. And so I'll go on and do some little research.
Now, do you put your phone on Do Not Disturb when you do that?
I need to. I do.
I mean, I wasn't trying to throw you under the bus. I was just curious. Like, my ADD gets the bad. I'm like, squirrel, what's happening?
It does. And I'll get started. I'm like,
let's score the Reds game. Anything like that'll get me.
It does. Trust me, I know. But I started to value 45 minutes to an hour. You can get so much done in an hour with focused time. But yeah, one good way is to put it on Do Not Disturb. So
batch. Now, the only thing I like to batch are cookies.
Chocolate chip to be that.
Chocolate chip, yeah. Ooh, protein chocolate chip cookies.
Oh boy, goodness, yeah, boy, come on.
So you write 3 blogs an hour. How many blogs are you putting out in a week?
I'm only doing one. There's a weekly email that I send out. That's the blog. So I do one blog a week that goes out every Monday. And inside of that blog, I could necessarily take out about 5 to 6 different sentences or quotes and make my posts. And so I'll do that. If not, do videos off of that same blog. So I'll even do audio podcasts. I'll use Anchor if you haven't heard of Anchor.fm, or I started using Chirp, CHIRP now. Somebody got me using Chirp. And so I started doing that. Those are just like my weekly, quick 1 to 2 minute podcasts that I can do and sit out, and that gets shared on my social media as well. And then any videos that I ended up doing, I've been slacking on my videos a little bit. I
have noticed that. I was going to bring that up while we were talking. No, but so the thing is, you make the best videos. And you've taught me a lot about putting out content that's really solid content. Maximizing Moments with Milton are some of my favorite stuff. You got good content, so I think people are looking for it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and people remind me of that too. People will say that I run into will say, hey, they don't say anything about my blogs necessarily, but they always talk about my videos. And I'm like, gosh, maybe I start doing more videos.
Well, I think it is because people are afraid to put their face out there. I think it's kind of like, man, that guy's bold.
Let me ask you, why do you think people are afraid to put their face out there?
I would guess it's a fear of looking stupid. Like, it's this giant fear that someone's going to judge me. When I think as pastors, most of us know that we're getting judged all the time.
All the time.
Not by God, but by our people.
Right. Right.
And so
you didn't say that right. Oh, look at him.
Right. So Milton, one of the things I know about you is that in addition to all the other stuff that you do, your actual job, the one that you support your family with, not all the other jobs that you do, it requires you to travel a lot.
Hmm.
How does that play into your faith life balance? What are some of the rules that you have for yourself when it comes to traveling and staying connected to God and
Hmm.
to your
Hmm.
wife, to your kids, and
Right.
all that? How's that look for you? Because I know that there's some people out there who are in the midst of the grind and they may
Right.
not be nearly as much as they want to.
Right, right, and we talk about balance between your spiritual life, work life, family life, fitness, if that's one, but and financial. But when it comes to travel, and I do have my routine, right? And so I know that if I'm in a long flight back to the East Coast, that I'm gonna be reading. I'm gonna be researching, reading something it's uplifting, encouraging.
What are
Um,
you reading right now?
Gosh, what am I reading? Actually, it'd be funny. Here's the book. It's called. Uh, Don't Leave Your Mind Behind, the mental side of performance. I don't know if you can see that at
Oh
all,
yeah,
but
that looks intense.
by Dr. Keith Hession and with Dr. Nicole Detling. So don't leave your mind behind. And so obviously being a coach and athlete, but also a person that loves to think about how the mind reacts to different situations, scenarios, and how I can help other people through theirs as well. So that's what I've been reading when I've been traveling. I don't know if Bishop T.D. Jakes, it was another book that I left on a plane a couple months ago that really bugged me. But so,
I bet the person behind you really appreciated
yeah, I
it.
was like, oh, somebody's got blessed by that.
Somebody just got blessed.
I never put it back in the seat pocket behind front of you. Yeah, I remember that now. So I get a chance to read a little bit more than I do and listen to podcasts while I can work too. Thank God for the Wi-Fi on the plane, so I can do a lot of podcasting and listening and reading and then once I get to, my biggest thing, I think, to keep my boundaries for those that do have to work and grind, that help me out, because it was a challenge earlier in my life, my marriage life.
Yes, it is.
I chose this career. So,
And you chose wisely because your wife is an
I
angel.
did. My boss loves to think there's no fraternization rules with that.
I really want to make an inappropriate joke about when's the last time you got a raise, but I'm not going to.
Hold it. So just being married early, when I had to travel in my marriage, I wasn't the wisest when it came to traveling. I find myself in difficult situations that I just didn't quite like. But now when I go, more mature now, so I actually don't turn on the TV. So when I get to the hotel room, number one, I pray when I get into the room. That's really the first thing that I do. I pray over the room, because you never know what's going on and what's been going on in that room. So that hotel.
Like, give me an example here. What kind of prayer? Do you have a standard prayer that you use? Standard hotel prayer room?
It's Lord, I thank you for giving me this day. Thank you for this room, Father. I don't know what's going on in this room, but I cast out any demons or spirits that are against you, and I just pray for your peace and your spirit to reign in this room and over my sleep. In Jesus' name, Amen. So that's a quick prayer, kicking out the bad, bringing in the good, and then I'm a little phobic too, so I usually will spray down my room with Lysol.
Wait, do you bring Lysol with you?
I bring a small can of
Man,
small,
this is the most transparent podcast ever.
And some wipes and some Clorox wipes, and I have a travel one, so I will wipe down. And I've traveled so much.
One of those guys.
What's that?
Wipe down the seat that you sit in.
On handles, I wipe down whatever, however many wipes I got in that travel one, I will wipe down, just because I just
for a travel thing, sanitizer wipes every time you leave.
Every time I leave, I got the travel spray, Lysol, travel and wipe, the travel Clorox wipes, and I'll bring my own pillowcase too. That's just my trick. And so
bring your own pillowcase. That's genius.
I bring my own pillowcase because I'm like, again, I don't know if it's phobic. It's just I'm a man of context, Tony. So I need context, and if I don't have context, it creeps me out. So if I see a stain
context is if you don't know where that's been, you don't want to go there.
Exactly.
I think you just probably gave a lot of people something to think about.
I hope so. Like, don't be drinking out of that coffee pot.
No, don't do that. Do not put down the glass in the bathroom.
Do not eat.
That is not safe for you.
Yeah, I do. I find myself not turning on the TV because it's a big distraction for me. And that just know my boundaries, right? And so if I'm not watching TV, I'm either on my computer doing some work, getting some blogs done, just really batching again. So it's a time for me to batch when I travel, especially if I'm here at home, then I'm, with family. I got things with my son, I've got things with my wife. But if I'm on the road, obviously that minimizes to just me. And so I just really find ways to keep myself busy. And I do a lot of sightseeing, so I'll go out and try to find areas for me to experience culture or history, things of that nature. So those are my disciplines when I travel.
And then you still go to the gym and do your morning routine as well.
Oh yeah, so yeah. Even I still, whether it's at night or in the morning, I'll still work out. Yeah, I still find time to go in the gym, and I'll still do intermittent fasting too. So, especially if I leave like at a 7 a.m. flight.
So you're willing to turn down the free breakfast buffet?
I do.
How many days a week do you intermittent fast?
I do it 6 days a week. Yeah, 6 days a week. So
every day but Saturday?
Every day but Saturday. Yeah. Saturday's my pancakes.
Protein pancakes. It's legendary. It's legendary.
I love my pancakes. It's my way to keep me sane throughout the week. So yeah, that's some of my travel disciplines for my work that I try to keep going.
So let me ask you this, because one of the things that we haven't really touched base on is what you do for fun. I've heard a lot about. I mean, you work, your hustle, right? You're grinding out stuff. You've got you pump out a lot of content. You're reading a lot of stuff. How would you describe if somebody said, Milton, what do you do for fun? Is all that stuff that you do kind of just because that's who you're wired? Is that your fun, or is it something else, or is it some combination?
Yeah, that's a great question, Tony. I think that's one that I've had a hard time answering for a lot of years. It's like, what do you do for fun? The standard is, oh yeah, I play golf. No, I don't. I think fun for me is if I can. Yeah, I think I do things that satisfy my soul. And the things that satisfy my soul are me being, number one, being creative. I think that's what God put inside of me, and I think that's what we're called to do, is be creative. And so putting out content, doing those things that I do a lot allows me to be creative. It allows me to think, allows me to use my spiritual insight, allows me to tap into the talents God's given me. And so that satisfies my soul. Me playing catch with my son in the backyard satisfies my soul. Me camping with my family, we do camp. So we glamp, I guess they call it.
Glamp. No, give everybody the definition. I know what it is, but I want to hear the Milton Herring definition.
It's not. It's basically sleeping without your butt in the ground. So glamorized camping. So we have a travel trailer. So you got a bed. I have a bed, a king size bed. Do I have a shower? Do I have a stove? And
now, does your teenager still like that?
What's that? My teenagers?
Yeah.
They do. Well, my son does. It depends on the day. If I make him do most of the work to set up, he doesn't like it. But
for everything with teenagers, isn't
it? Yeah. But if I say, hey, I'll do this, I'll split this with you, he's good. He's cool with it. But he's becoming more and more appreciative of nature and being away. It's funny. His comments are, Dad, I like being just like by ourselves, like out here, and so to the point where he's like, I want to buy some land, like where I can just be myself, and I'm like,
he's going off the grid.
Yeah, the grid. Yeah. So that's things that satisfy my soul. And there's so many things that I can't say one thing I do for fun. I sprinkle it throughout my week.
Oh, and
do so. But I like to retreat every so often just to get away and sabbatical wise. And I think we've been working on that's something my wife and I have been talking about, sabbaticals. Not sabbaticals, and then just really respecting the Sabbath and finding time not to get to, you're not working, you're really not pushing yourself. It's really doing what God, the biblical references to Sabbaths is, and it just embracing and being in God's presence. And that's where we're working on that a little bit more. I'm not saying we're perfect at it, but that's something that we're top of mind.
Well, one of the things that I think people forget all the time is that retreat is a tactical move.
It is.
It's not going backwards for the sake of going backwards. It's retreat is a tactical move in order to gain momentum for the next move.
Yep.
and
Man,
to regather the forces, so to speak.
right. Right. Exactly. Right. You're like, I got to retool. I got to pick up what do I count my resources? Like,
I got to figure out where my head's at.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, listen, we've got kids that are in a different season than yours, but it's like all the time driving them around. I feel like a professional Uber. And so that little Sabbath, taking that time to retreat is critically important in order to regroup. And Karen and I, we try to take Sunday nights and we look through the calendar the week ahead and be like, okay, you're on A, B, and C, and I'm on D, E, and F, and let's meet again on G.
That's awesome. My prayers are going to you.
Well, I mean, let me ask you this, because you've got 4 kids out of the house. You got 1 kid who's a teenager who's, by all accounts, a stud athlete playing varsity baseball. He clearly gets that from his mom.
Clearly, she's an athlete. Trust me. And she'll tell you to this day. She before we got married, she flipped me over. I don't know how, when she flipped me, but she did. I don't know. Was that 4 bills, Milton? No, that was 3 bills, Milton. 3 bills straight out of football camp, season, Milton. So, yeah, that was swole, Milton. Yeah. It was one of those things. Anyways, yeah, she's an athlete.
So what would you say, like, looking back on raising kids and still having one in the house, what would you say is the most or the best practice that you did to incorporate faith into their lives?
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't think I'm ever a spiritual expert on this, but one thing that I do recall what my dad did with me and my brothers is periodically sit down with us and talk about, I wouldn't say you incorporate Bible verses into daily things, life things and issues. And that's one thing I think with my children, raising them, number one, making it a point to worship together, going to church, and then number 2, making it a point to have discussions around the week, and always filter every life situation back to the Word of God, not being super overly spiritual, but understanding that there is a balance between what we're seeing in the spirit and the natural, and how the spiritual impacts that, whether it's the evil side or God's side, that there's always a spiritual force that is encompasses in what we do. And every victory we're praising God. Every failure we still give glory to God. And I was telling my son that the other day, no matter what, win or lose, you give glory to God, son. I mean, no matter what happens, if you get up to that plate to hit and bat and you strike out, that's all right. Walk back knowing that you did your best, right. And just know there's another opportunity. So with my girls too, and my boys, it's like, anytime I can, not to be, like I said, like super spiritual, like, oh, you stepped on a penny or stepped on a nail, that must have been the devil. No, that, you stepped on the nail. But, when it comes to, things in life, if you didn't, but then also having them understand that there's a spiritual side, but then the natural side is that they're responsible for their actions and responsible for what they do and what they say. But also distinguishing those two between the natural, the spiritual, and how that all balances. So that's what I think me and my wife did a really good job with our kids, even to the point where were they perfect? No. Did they go off in their deep ends? Oh, of course they did. But even to this day, my oldest daughters, who are now 29 and 24, they are always referencing stuff that we taught them when they were, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, all the things that we were planting seeds. And
that has to feel good.
It is. And it's great to hear it when you're a parent that you got some things that are sprouting, you think it's sprouting and it might not be sprouting. It was just a sprinkle of something, but then, oh, okay, there it is, and so, but you continue to love on them. And then there's because how old is your oldest, Tony?
13. He's 13. I'm an idiot to him.
You lost dad cool? Is that
I'm not sure I ever had it, honestly. I think I'm so funny and he just doesn't.
He's like,
Dad, please stop.
You're not. I got
my 7-year-old corrects me. She's the little princess. She's in control. I just do whatever she tells me to. That's the problem.
That's the problem. She's got you wrapped in.
Man. And she's like, hey, Daddy, shouldn't we be doing this? Oh, I think you're right. Don't tell Mom.
Don't tell Mom. That's Dad's famous word. Don't tell Mom.
Don't tell Mom. I don't care what. Here's $100. Don't tell Mom.
because I want her to know I got it together. I want mom to know I got it together.
Which
I
is, she knows I don't have it together. Why pretend?
Never have it together. Like so yeah, that's a spiritual. It's a journey. Every phase of growth from you're 13 and my 14 to when they're in their 20s, early 20s, or graduating high school, graduating college. It's a whole different. I'm learning all the different seasons of the growth phases. Even I know there's more to learn as they get older. But it's a lot. I'll give you this one piece of advice for those that are listening, though. But if you have teenagers, a spiritual counselor told me once, treat it like a NASCAR race. They'll spin around and go left around the track, 250 miles per hour, whatever they do. You're sitting in the pit, and you're saying, "Hey, I think you need to take a break," and they're like, "No, I got it. We're good." And all of a sudden, and then they spun out, or they got a ball tire or something. They come into the pit. They're like, "Hey, can you change this tire for me and give me some gas and some fuel and give me some refreshment and get me back out?" Sure, I can do that. So just treat your teens as if you feel like they're disconnecting, they're on the track. They're just on the track, and when they come into pit is when they start asking you questions and they start asking for wisdom and advice and counseling, and then they want to go back out on the track and keep going again. So until they figure it out or knock their heads or run against the wall or whatever. So I just say that.
Just to try to keep them on the track.
That's all you want to do. Make sure the tires are good. Make sure they got enough fuel. Are you eating? Are you sleeping? What do you need? And
I love it. Yeah. That's a great image. That's a phenomenal image for what I think teenage years are like. Hey, listen, we're just getting started. So he's not even up to full speed yet, and he's already, I don't even know.
Bless you.
He's a good kid. He's a good kid. So one of the questions I love to ask all my guests is if you were to go back to newly engaged, maybe even newly married Milton, and you were going to give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Newly engaged, newly married Milton. Gosh.
21 years ago.
21. Yeah. Wow. I would say.
Man, you're old. When did that happen?
21 years ago. People were like, "Wait, how old are you?" Like, yeah, I know. Yeah. So, I would tell the younger, newly engaged Milton, I would say the young Milton to cherish the moment. I talk a lot about maximizing the moment, but cherish the moment. Cherish what you have. And I think the younger Milton was still focused a lot on himself versus focusing on the people that are around him that he was choosing and dedicate himself to love and to be in relationship with. That's one thing I would tell is just to cherish the moment, cherish what you have. Because if you're thinking there's something better on the other side or better on the other side of the wall or grass or green or however you want to say the terminology, it's not as good as what you already have. So I would say cherish those moments and knowing that, hey, 43 is not old. I thought 43 is you're almost dying at 43. So it's not like 10 years away from death. Like, no, it's not.
You're not even halfway, man. Come on.
And so that it's a long ways, but just enjoy it, enjoy the journey, and try not to. And you know, and even at being this age, and I would go back to, if I were to go back to the future, say, look, you're not the only one that doesn't have it together. So don't think that you have to have it together.
I haven't met anybody that does yet.
No, and I thought that you had, for my young self, I thought I had to have it together, and everybody else had already had it together. And so I didn't realize that there's so much life to live outside of that. And that's one thing I would try to really get across to you, little Milton. Just cherish the moment, and just know that God's got your back no matter what. Hey,
when you go back and talk to young Milton, do me a favor, share that message with young Tony too.
We'll do that. I was like,
at 18, I was an idiot.
I'm looking for you in the yellow pages.
Yeah. Hit me up on MySpace. What?
Would you have MySpace and a pager?
Yep, I did have a pager. Did you have a pager?
Nope. I was never that cool. My brother did.
So I had a job. I bought it myself, and my mom was like, "Don't waste your money on that." I was like, "My people need to find me."
My people.
I didn't have any people. She's like, "You're a drug dealer." I was like, "Mom, I go to a private school in downtown Dayton. No one's gonna think I'm a drug dealer."
So did you wear your pager on the belt or on the pocket, or where'd you wear it at? Where'd you?
Oh, typically on the belt, but on the inside of the belt.
Ooh. Okay, you were like secretive, but
Yeah, you know, I was trying to play it cool, humble.
yeah.
Never. It's a word that's never been associated with my name.
You would call your own pager to make yourself feel important. No, you didn't do that.
No, but what I did do is I had Karen and I were dating in high school, and I would have Karen's dad text me scores to the Ohio State game. And so then I could be like, oh, this is on-demand scores. Now we call them cell phones. ESPN's got a whole app devoted to it. I think they kind of stole mine.
That's cool.
Oh, that's great. Hey, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. For your podcast and your audience reclamation podcast. Love it.
Hey, so if my listeners want to find more about Maximizing Moment with Milton, where should we send them?
Yeah, if you're on any social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, just type
your Instagram posts, man, they're so good. You got to follow this guy on Instagram.
Thanks, Tony. It's just at Milton Herring, MiltonHerring. So you can find me there or at miltonherring.com, and yeah, I'll show up. Pretty sure I will.
I love it. And if there's any way, if people are listening to this episode and they're like, man, I just love this guy. If there's any way that my people can be praying for you, what's one specific way they can pray for you when they think about you?
I think this phase of life, a prayer request would be not only for protection mentally, but just a prayer of fortitude. Fortitude, and I think that would be the best that anyone could pray for me right now. It's just prayer for fortitude and encouragement. I don't think I can be encouraged enough, and as much as I tried and worked to encourage other people, all encouragers need to be encouraged. I guarantee that. So,
Amen. All right, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today.
I loved it. Thank you, Pastor Tony. Appreciate all you do, and to your church members and all those that listen. You're following a great man. Pastor Tony is a good man. So
I'll pay you later for that. I promise.
Got it.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. The best compliment you can give us is to share this episode with somebody who hasn't heard it before. I'd also love to hear your feedback. If there's any thoughts you had on the episode or anything that you'd like to let me know, I'd love to be in conversation with you. After all, we do this so that we can help each other grow. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you do when you're traveling, and how do you stay connected with God? What do you do when you're managing a million things and you want to stay connected with God? No matter what it is, it's worth talking about. So I look forward to hearing you all real soon. And again, thanks for sharing this episode of the Reclamation Podcast.